Good evening. Welcome to the City of Opa-locka Virtual Regular Commission meeting. This is a time in which we're able to review our agenda items today and also discuss items pertinent to our citizens and give our citizens the ability to speak. Madam Attorney, could you please review the procedures that govern this meeting?
Pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69 issued by the Office of the Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location and utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.545B2 Florida statutes. The members of the City Commission appearing remotely this evening are Vice Mayor Davis, Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Kelly, and Mayor Pickett. An opportunity was given to the public to address the City Commission tonight with questions, comments, concerns on items that you all will hear on this evening's City Commission agenda. And the email address is jflores@opalockafl.com. This meeting is being live streamed at https://www.youtube.com user/City of Opa-locka. As of the time of this meeting, 7:00 p.m., the clerk received 3 comments that will be read into the record at the appropriate time. Mr. Mayor, turning over the meeting to you at this time.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass?
I'm here.
Commissioner Burke?
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Davis? Vice Mayor Davis? Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Mayor Pickett?
Present. I believe the Vice Mayor
Here.
just jumped on. There we go.
Got it.
All right. Commissioner Kelly, could you lead us in invocation?
Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you, God, for the great city of Opa-locka. We thank you for our nation. We pray, oh God, your blessings upon your people. Continue to guide us and lead us. It's in your name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Burke, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Mr. Mayor, yes, I will, but we're gonna have somebody else to do this.
Yes, sir.
Our Pledge of Allegiance.
To the
To
flag
the flag of the United States of America,
America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any awards, proclamations, or acknowledgements?
Oh, we don't have any, Mr. Mayor.
All right, moving on to the approval of consent agenda and pull list. Are there any deferrals, deletions, or pulls? Okay. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move it.
Moved by moved by Commissioner Kelly,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Davis. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Mayor Pickett?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
You have a motion to approve the agenda,
Move it.
moved by Commissioner Bass,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Davis. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Commissioner Burke? Commissioner
Yes.
Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Pickett?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
You have a motion to approve the virtual regular commission meeting minutes on May 13th, 2020,
Move it.
moved by Commissioner Burke,
Second.
Second.
second by Commissioner Kelly. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Do I have a motion to approve the virtual special commission meeting minutes on May 14th, 2020?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass,
Second it.
second by Commissioner Kelly. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Do we have a representative from District 1 or 2? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, yes. I received an email from District 1, Larry Gardner, and he doesn't have any reports at this time. However, the commission, the mayor and the commission have anything to, for Commissioner Jordan, you can just relay the message and he'll make sure that it gets back to Commissioner Jordan.
Anything for District 1?
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Davis?
real quick, to District 1, I've been doing a little research as far as the CARES Act and where some of that federal money has went. I do know the county has access to an emergency service grant program, what I've been looking into. So if Mr. Gardner could provide any information along those same lines, with more information about the program and how, you know, cities like us can apply and get some of that funding to assist us in this emergency situation, that would be great.
All right. Anything else for District 1? Again, just send our thanks on behalf of the city of Opa-locka for the commissioner's assistance in getting our walk-up testing site in the city of Opa-locka, the only site in Miami-Dade County, well, north of downtown Miami, that is able to test kids 12 and older. And Commissioner Jordan was instrumental in ensuring that happened. So much respect to Commissioner Jordan, Miami-Dade County, for assisting the city of Opa-locka during that time. So if you can communicate that, that would be great. All right, moving on to public presentation. We have a presentation of roads and streets updates by our Director for Public Works, Mr. Aria Austin. Mr. Austin, you have the floor. I am going to stop the share.
Could you please give me sharing ability?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, our roads and streets projects are up tonight for approval. We intend to do a little more than we did our last go around.
Mr. Austin, I think you're sharing, Mr. Austin?
Yes.
I believe you're sharing the presentation view instead of the actual view for the presentation. Then you got to switch screens. Or
swap screens.
Yeah, and display settings.
Pardon?
Right under display settings, right where your mouse is at the top, you can swap the presentation.
And I'm having some difficulty here. I did this in my
So right between in the slideshow and show taskbar, there's a thing said display settings on the top left corner of your screen. I'm looking at it now. You click that. And you probably put swap. Yep.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay. Now I'm 100%. Okay. This our road milling and resurfacing projects. This year we had to cut back a little bit until our budget amendment takes effect. We're going to be doing $750,000 in milling and resurfacing. However, we have allocated instead of the previous amount of 1.4, we've allocated $1.8 million in roadway milling and resurfacing projects. We are we're going to be spending $402,000 for our CIP cure in place pump station restoration projects this year. This is what we did last year. We did 7 miles of roadway milling and resurfacing. This year we anticipate doing 6 miles of roadway milling and resurfacing, in addition to addressing some of the previous milled roadways to address the curbs for the streets that were not milled or resurfaced, so we could mitigate any potholes that developed during this time. Back in 2016, we had 17 of our 19 pump stations out of compliance. We have addressed several of them, which at that point it affected 81% of our businesses that were waiting for moratoriums to be lifted so they could move forward with commerce and upgrades to their businesses. We addressed that by bringing most of our pump stations into compliance, with the exception of 4 of them. This year, we plan on addressing all 4 of the pump stations, for which we have addressed pump station number 5, and we're only waiting for the flow testing to be conducted, which starts, which the period in which we could conduct that test starts in June 1st and runs until November, at which time we would be addressing pump station 5 and hopefully 7 and 8, which we are planning to do some lining of the gravity infrastructure this year before November. Our only remaining pump station would be number 4, which right now, 4, 7, and 8 affects 24% of our businesses, which we would be happy to mitigate. After the lining project, we would have 9% of our stations, of our businesses impacted by a station in moratorium, which at that time we hope will only be pump station number 4. These projects are all queued and ready to roll out, and the vendors are promising that they would be able to have it done before the rainy season ends, at which time we could do the flow testing and have the stations out of moratorium. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions or concerns.
Right, the floor is open for any questions or comments to Mr. Austin.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly.
thank you. Mr. Austin, regarding the milling and servicing, of course, we've already passed it tonight of the road work. How much miles of streets did you say that would be when you complete all of the projects that you want to do?
6.5 miles of roadway.
Okay, and all of that was listed in your presentation on that slide, the phase 4?
Yes, sir. All the streets are listed there.
Okay.
It's also in your agenda package.
No, I know it's in my agenda package. Okay, I guess the $1 million question, and I guess we'll get to it at some point, maybe under the manager's report. Any of this billing and servicing does not really impact drainage.
No, sir.
Okay.
Our RFQ that was just closed, and
I know, just yes or no, it doesn't affect the drainage issues that we have. These are just billing and servicing. Okay. Any of this consist of sidewalk as well?
We also have a sidewalk project, yes, sir.
No, is any of this part of that?
It is
sidewalks included?
We're gonna have 2.5 miles of sidewalk will be installed. This is new sidewalk.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Davis.
Through the mayor, to Mr. Austin, just got a quick question. I guess it's along the same lines as water, sewer, and the remilling of our streets. I know we've been diligently working to remill our city streets roads. I know at some point we're going to start addressing, I guess, the long-term issues with drainage, also related to the infrastructure problems we've been experiencing.
Yes, sir.
Can you speak to that as well as, I guess, any things that the community can be doing to kind of prevent, the overloads of our pump stations? And I know in the past when we met with apartments, I know we encourage residents not to, place things that aren't supposed to be flush and compromising items that could potentially lead to offsetting our pump stations. So if you kind of speak to that as far as what we can do as far as educating the community, I know we all, sort of thing. So just to kind of, make it where we all work better together.
As of late, we have a high influx of sanitary wipes being flushed down the sanitary sewer system. Although the package just said they're flushable, they're wreaking havoc on our sanitary sewer system because it gets caught in the pump impellers, and then the pumps are not as efficient at pumping. This is one of the reasons, if you haven't heard, Pump Station 300, which serves the entire Opa-locka and other municipalities, when they lost 2 pumps last night as a result of this type of debris in the sanitary sewer system. So we implore upon residents not to flush these wipes. Some of them are flushable, but of late, the disinfectant wipes, which are not flushable, are being flushed down the drain. We're finding more of those in the drain. And some, with the advent of the rainy season, most people are now popping manhole covers to help meet concerns, which is also impacting our pump stations. Right now, those are the only 2 that come to mind for me to speak on as it relates to our sanitary sewer system.
Thank you very much. Through the mayor to Mr. Austin. Hopefully, at some point, I'd like to see the manager's office kind of get involved as far as educating the community. Are thinking ahead of maybe potentially implementing public forum. So just kind of getting that information out to the community, just so we're all on the same page. As far as our public works and our pump stations are concerned.
Will do, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Kudos to staff and Mr. Austin for implementing this. This is a huge achievement for the city of Opa-locka to go from in 2016 having, I thought it was 18 pump stations, but 17 pump stations inoperable to now we are on course to have at least 8 stations fully operable within the city of Opa-locka, which means that our moratorium, which is one of our 4 major challenges that we have to overcome as a city, will be addressed significantly, where now we will have, where we went from 30% of our able to operate and expand. Now we'll be up to 90% of our businesses able to operate and expand and not be in door moratorium. So that is a significant achievement. I want to give thanks to our staff to making the proper plans and investment in our infrastructure to do so, along with our roads and streets. Potholes has plagued this community for far too long. And it looks like with this plan, did I hear at one point it's 90% of potholes will be addressed in the city?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct?
So with this push.
with this push. So that is a very significant achievement of this administration. I just want to give my respects to staff who put in the work and the proper planning investments to ensure that we are overcoming these challenges. This is something that is a part of, as I said, those 4 major challenges that upon our finances, our water billing, our flooding and Durham moratorium, and also our roads and streets. So today, with the passage of this consent agenda, we have made significant strides in addressing the Durham moratorium and our roads and streets. I'm going to wait to citizens forum before we about the flooding. I'm pretty sure that may be what many of our citizens have put in a request for. So any other last comments from Mr. Austin?
No, sir, I'm good.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to citizens forum. This opportunity for our citizens to speak publicly. Madam Clerk, could you please review the guidelines for that governs citizens forum during this virtual process and go through the actual public comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So the public had an opportunity to submit their comments ahead of the meeting via email to publiccomments@opalockafl.gov. Comments submitted by members of the public by email will be read into the record during the meeting as long as they provide the comments by the deadline 2 hours prior to the scheduled meeting time. Comments received after the deadline will be kept for the record but will not be read during the meeting. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, move forth with the comment?
Yes.
Okay, so the first comment reads as follows. Good afternoon. Audrey Dominguez, 1147 Jan Avenue. On April 22nd, the regular commissioners meeting, what I saw was a mockery of certain city officials that were elected to represent the city of Opa-locka. The mayor cutting off the mic while 2 commissioners were speaking was totally rude, disrespectful, and showed lack of education. I thought watching Lake Worth Beach Commissioners meeting was bad. However, Opa-locka was worse. You have to remember these videos are being watched the way you talk, dress, and present yourself as city officials. Commissioner Omari Hardy from Lake Worth apologized for his behavior. However, you, Mayor Pygott, never apologized to your colleagues for cutting off the microphone. A resolution was brought up by the city manager to contract hip rock star with Jessica Motkins, president, to represent the city as a PR during coronavirus pandemic. Commissioner Kelly and Burke voted against it and did not pass. Mayor Pygott spoke about it as if it was his baby. On May 13th, in the regular commissioners meeting, the city manager brought back the same resolution to contract star, which did not pass the first time and made me wonder why bring it back. Something didn't smell right, nothing against this company. However, after hearing the public presentation with this company and finding out that she is a member of the Chamber of Commerce, to disclose he is also a member of the Chamber of Commerce. As a matter of fact, he, the mayor, was part of a meeting called Understanding How to Secure the Bag with Eric Knowles, Terry Williams, Rulon Washington, and you, Mayor Pygott, which she, Jessica Motkins, was. Mr. Mayor, you should have recused yourself from that meeting because of the conflict of interest, but now it's on the record. This is not personal, Mr. Mayor, it's business when it comes to my tax dollars being used for unnecessary things. I know the resolution passed. However, the only commissioner who stood his ground from day one was Commissioner Kelly. For those commissioners who voted for it, well, now you know, and your names are registered as approving this resolution. Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. This is to the Chief of Police and City Manager. During the past few weekends, specifically on Saturdays between 9:30 and 11 p.m., I have been hearing shootings. This past Saturday, the 23rd at 10:30 p.m., I heard at least 10 shots. Then right after, another 6. I called 911 because it was too close to home. It's coming from the same areas. Please have officers drive around these streets because it's getting dangerous out here. I have an app called Neighbors and Residents report any incidents they see or hear. That concludes the first comment, Mr. Mayor, and I'll move on to the second.
Okay.
The second one reads, good evening. I am Natasha Urban, 670 Dunat Avenue, Opa-locka, Florida, 33054. While surfing Facebook, I noticed that the residents in the Glorietta Apartments, AKA the Back Blues apartment complex, were calling out for the city of Opa-locka to help them, to do something about their situation, the flooding from the rain. Tonight, I am suggesting that the city sit this one out. HUD pays the owner of this complex millions of dollars per month, not to mention grant money that he receives. This is not a city situation. This is also nothing new with the flooding. It has been flooding back there for over 30 years and counting. The residents need to put in the work by contacting HUD, not Opa-locka city government. We have homeowners that are affected by the flooding of our streets that have impacted their homes. So if we're helping someone, it needs to be those homeowners. I would like to say thank you to everybody that come out each Tuesday to assist in feeding families in our community. I know that I have and am really enjoying working with the commission, the staff, and the volunteers during this pandemic. We've come together for the betterment of our community, and I love it. Together we are stronger, and I look forward to us all working together when things get better. Thank you and stay safe. And that concludes the comment from Natasha Urban. And I have one more, just a moment. Okay, so this one is from Cassandra Williams, and it reads, hello, good afternoon. This is Miss Williams from Ingram Terrace Apartments. My address is 3120 Northwest 131st Street, apartment 25. We have a lot of old people and they cannot get out to go to the doctor because you cannot get in or out due to the heavy rain, which has caused a lot of flooding. I understand the parking lot does not belong to Opa-locka. It belongs to the city, but is just as important as the streets are in Opa-locka when the trucks fly down the street. They cause destruction in the road, causing holes in the street. Also, when it rains, they pushes a whole bunch of water inside the complex, causing the water to rise even more up to our apartment doors, and our cars are flooded with water. And no one is not able to go to work. We can't go to the grocery stores. And if we have an emergency, what are we supposed to do? I'm just looking for a solution for this problem. You can reach me. She provided a telephone number. Please get back to me ASAP. Thank you for your time. And that concludes the public comment from Ms. Williams. Ms. Williams also submitted some photos. I'm not sure if you want me to forward that to you, Mr. Mayor, so that you can share, but they are available and attached to the email that she sent.
Yes, please forward the photos to the commission and the city manager so that we're aware of what's going on. Floor is open for comments and questions for the Citizens Forum.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Davis.
just to kind of address the two flooding concerns, one being in, I think, Glorietta Gardens. We all know, Glorietta Gardens, like I think the public comment alluded to, is that, it's a long-standing problem. Flooding has existed in that community, for years. Like I said earlier, I hope that we as a city continue to, educate our residents. I've been seeing in other cities where, the pump stations have been overloaded because of, the increase of people being home and, the lack thereof of toilet paper and other toiletries, which, resulted in people putting towels and other down their their toilets, which in return overloads our pump station. So what I would like to see is definitely a significant amount of education around that. To the second case with Ingram Terrace Apartments that I've been actually working to address with Commissioner Monestein's office, our county commissioner, for a couple months now. I know that the issue specifically to flooding and you know, getting the truck out to kind of assist with picking up some of the water. I know, you know, it ultimately results with the county because it is a county-owned property, so the city doesn't have jurisdiction to go in and you know, pump out the water and the lights. Also, as a we also passed legislation to donate. I think it was a city street in front of Ingham Terrace Apartments, pretty much, so the county could come in and put in some infrastructure improvement. I don't know if Mr. Austin could kind of speak to that, or you know, some of the other issues, or through the mayor and the manager. But I like to give them an opportunity to kind of expand upon those issues.
Okay. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke?
Mr. Mayor, I got a call early this morning from the tenant captain in Glorietta Apartments. I realized it was pretty bad back there, but Mr. Mayor, that problem has been going on for years. And you got to understand, they were asking, where was the Opa-locka commission? Where was the mayor? And you got to understand, that's private property. When we, as a city, go and stop pumping water off of that property and something happens, we get the liability. Okay, and I sort of explained this to Mr. Gary this morning. These properties has been flooding. There is apartments. I don't even know how they was able to build them without no drainage. But every time something happens, you know, and they're looking for the city to bail these private entities out. Now, if you want to bail some, that road coming from Churches in the back of the bank, where all them homes back there, where all them homeowners can't get to their homes. Okay, I can see sending somebody over there to pump that out. That guy who owns Glorietta Apartment lives in Palm Beach. And just like they say, if the tenants down want to do something, don't try to hold us accountable. Go to HUD. HUD pay them over $5 million a month in rent. I realize they're still our residents, and anything that we can do to help them, that we should. But I'm saying, we have our right at this time. We have our own issues, and we cannot keep going onto private property like we did for somebody else, and taking up these issues. But you got to understand, the whole South Florida is flooded, and it's still raining. It's going to rain the rest of the week. So if we go out and Glorietta Apartment and take pumps out there and pump the water out, where we're going to pump it to? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Bass?
as it relates to the shooting, I do have a concern of the increase in activities through the last couple weeks. It's disturbing. And I would just pray that, you know, we remain vigilant, and we, you know, just be careful when we're out there, and hopefully that our residents will have a different view of living, that, you know, that violence and gun shooting won't take us anywhere. I just want Mr. Lawrence to know that I took note of that, and I'm very concerned also. And also, as it relates to the apartment complex and Opa-locka not being quote unquote responsible for it, I think we still can play a role in, we always use the word educating, in educating our residents back there on who the apartment complex belong to. Believe it or not, the majority of them don't know that ultimately Opa-locka is not, quote unquote, responsible for the flooding. So maybe when all of this is over and done with, that maybe we can have a town hall meeting, and invite the powers that be in so they can have an opportunity to voice their concerns, because the rainy season here might be over within a few months, but guarantee will be the same problem next year and the year after. So maybe if we can facilitate a meeting with the residents and the powers that be, that will be our contribution to them in educating them on the steps that are necessary. Instead of calling the city of Opa-locka, they would know who to call. And I think that will be a great help to them, because once they know who they need to call, I believe that they will call. And I've also received pictures and phone calls from back there, and it is horrendous. I just feel for them, because me personally, I would hate to live in that environment and knowing that they are our people. It's just very sad situation. So I would just suggest that we later on, try and get together and have a town hall meeting. And then, like I said before, invite the powers that be so they can have the right people that they need to talk to. Because I think most of their frustrations towards the city of Opa-locka is them not knowing what's actually going on. And even with the city of Miami's pump 300 and the other one that's busted, that's helping to contribute to what's going down there. They don't know that. So, we have to do our part, and hopefully they'll be receptive to us helping them. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly.
thank you. My colleagues hit on several good points regarding all these issues. I'll wait for the shootings and all of that when we get to the manager's report. I've been working for several years on the Ingram Terrace, just trying to figure out who owned it, and finally realized the county owns that property. And as the Vice Mayor indicated, it's been ongoing trying to get the commissioner's office. We did get a little progress to help deal with some of the drainage on the outside, but inside is still a major problem, and the county owns that property. As relates to the apartment complexes, and I've been saying it for a long time, and I still say it, whether it's drainage, whether it's compliance on social distancing, whether it's whatever, you got to get the folks who own that property to the table. I did see some correspondence earlier where there was a meeting that took place with staff about the issues. And again, it's the same thing. Going to get together, going to meet to try to resolve. There's nobody, in my opinion, that I see on this list that makes any monetary or financial decisions. So until you do that, you can have all the meeting with the folks over there you want. You got to get the folks that make the money decisions to make a commitment. They are fully aware, as was indicated earlier, about the challenges. We get the bad press, we get all of the negativity, so we want to do something. But again, that's private property. And when it comes right down to it, we as a city at some point are going to have to hold these apartment complexes that continue to have these challenges accountable. It's the bottom line. And until we do that, we're going to spin our wheels. Now, the folks that I saw in the correspondence that are going to schedule a meeting and want to know what they need to do, they already know what they need to do. They already know the issues of the drainage over there. They're not new. But now we're going to schedule some more meetings. At some point, the city is going to make a commitment and have to really toughen up and not only get on them, but go after HUD as well, get them involved, because it's an ongoing issue. I'll wait on the manager's report before I deal with the rest of the issue that's flooding. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the citizens that took the time to reach out. As my colleagues has mentioned, one of the serious concerns that we're facing with the city last night and over the past few days, we had a record amount of rain that caused basically it overflowed the pump stations throughout Miami-Dade County, including Opa-locka. And we do have infrastructure challenges. That's why last year we declared a flooding emergency, so that people are very clear that we as a city know that there is a problem with flooding within the city. And we currently also put out an RFP earlier this year to get civil engineers together so that we can do a proper assessment, because this has been decades in the making. But this administration is committed to making sure that we address all issues in the city of Opa-locka, no matter how long they've been in existence within the city. So one of the steps to doing that is to get proper assessment of the flooding areas, get in experts that can tell us what are the highest priorities, what are the costs for each area, and then put together a plan alongside our 5-year recovery plan that will show how we're going to make investments in our infrastructure to ensure that no resident within or no business within the city of Opa-locka is affected by floodings. So I asked our residents to bear with us during this time because it is a challenge, a major challenge of the city. But we are working to do that. The RFP actually just closed, and we're reviewing those candidates as soon as possible so that we can put together a plan to address these flooding issues. In the meantime, I did wade through the water in Glorietta Apartments today and met with residents. I met with the Tenant Association president and vice president, and also the current property manager to discuss what needs to actually be done to ensure that that gets addressed once and for all. The property has made significant strides to get in security and a few other things, security cameras, a few other things that we wanted to address. The residents see that the drainage is something that is it's going to be more. So we met and we discussed very clearly and from staff, we reiterated the issues that property has to put in place in order to address the drainage. So that is clear. I've also been contacted by Senator Marco Rubio so that we can take the conversation to another level because it is a HUD property, and we want to make sure that that is also going to be addressed with that. So the city is taking the strides necessary to address the flooding throughout the city, and we want to let residents know that we are here, we know, and we're doing what we need to do to make this happen. Nevertheless, do not let up on holding us accountable and inquiring about what that means for you. But as our Public Works Director said, there are some things that you can do to stop and prevent this, and that's with making sure you watch what you flush down the toilets so that we can ensure that we have a flow throughout the city. So I want to thank everyone for doing that. The other thing with the shooting, that is something that we're investigating. We actually had an evaluation of the police department by Miami-Dade County. So that is something that we actually are looking into to ensure that our residents are getting the best public service from our police department. So I know that the chief and manager has been putting together plans to address all those fines and ensure that we are responsive and providing the best service to flooding. There was some comments in the public forum about, I guess, myself. And I guess, Madam Attorney, we need to figure out about the decorum and statutes, how that applies to public comments, because some of those comments veered on being slanderous and impertinent. And that's unfortunate that one of our residents want to take the time to do that and make that statement. I am an employee. I got to work just like everybody else. And this is a small world here in Opa-locka, here in Miami-Dade County. So of course, there are going to be people that we interact with. So bringing in my work responsibilities with this is just file an ethics complaint. That's the proper way to do it. I have many of them that go through the process because we are here to make sure that we are addressing citizens' needs, and that's the bottom line. So I want to thank everyone that's involved and staff for doing that, and shout out to the PR person that has stepped up to make sure that this testing center is addressed and is promoted. We do have a walk-up testing site in the city of Opa-locka, and it is important that people know that they can come out and get their families tested within the city and walk up, so that we can still deal with this international pandemic. It is not gone away. It is not slowed down. We are still in the midst of it, and we need to make sure we get the message out to our residents. So with that, I want to thank all the citizens that have taken the time to email their comments. Please be sure to continue to do so, and make sure all you send that email to publiccomments@opalockafl.gov. All right. So with that, we're moving on to our action items. Madam Attorney, I believe this is 15A1.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, and Castle Opa LLC, a Florida limited liability company, for a specific portion of a public right-of-way known as a service road and identified by folio 08-2122-005-2170, authorizing the city manager to execute the easement agreement on behalf of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
All right, this is a public hearing item. Public hearing for item 15A1 is open. Madam Clerk, did you have any public comments for 15A1?
No, Mr. Mayor, I don't have any public comments for that item, but I think I did mention to you that the applicants, I believe, would like to speak under the public hearing.
Yes, so I believe Mr. Gay presents the item, and then we have the public hearing from the constituent, well, the person bringing it, yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to present Mr. Gay to explain the item.
Mayor, members of the commission, Gregory Gay, Director of Planning and Community Development, City of Opa-locka. The item before you, this resolution, is to enter into an easement agreement for the portion of service road that transverse in front of the property from approximately 17th Avenue to 18th Avenue. We've been working with Opa Castle LLC, as a limited liability corporation, for approximately the last 3 years. They acquired the property a few years ago, and they have been going through the process of remediating the contaminations that were on the site. As some of you may know, this site was utilized as a dumping ground for a demolition company for several years, and parts of the site were actually underwater at one point in time, but they were actually filled in by debris from demolitions. And this particular company is looking to develop this site as a residential development, low-rise, 1 to 2 story, possibly 3. And as a part of their mitigation process, one of the things that they've been tasked to do is to do the contamination cleanup. As they go through that particular process, one of the things that they've been able to determine is that as they look forward to moving toward the development aspect of the site, one of the things that is definitely clear is that the site will be having some drainage issues as it relates to certain levels of contamination that may be still present on the site as a part of the cleanup. What they're seeking to do is to enter into this easement agreement, which will allow for the right-of-way for service road from 17th Avenue to 18th Avenue to be considered as a drainage opportunity for them to properly drain the site, therefore that it would not create future flooding for that particular site, and could be potentially utilized as a refuge for drainage in other areas of the city. Staff has reviewed the the agreement that has been proffered before you. And in order for them to continue to move forward with the remediation of the site, they would need to have access to the site in order for them to continue with the cleanup and decontamination of the site. Staff recommends approval for this easement agreement. If you have any other questions or concerns, I'll address them at this time.
Question before we bring up the applicant?
I believe we have Mr. Reese Stigliano and Elliot Stone, who are the proprietors for Castle Opa LLC. They can probably bring forth and talk about their initiatives as it relates to the decontamination of the site and future development.
Good evening. My name's Elliot Stone. I live in North Miami, and I have been working with the city for, as Mr. Gay said, several years, 3 years since we started under contract, and over 2 years since we closed on the property, to first clean the property and make it a developable site that is safe. We, you know, and we've met and talked with all of you, I hope, more than once in most occasions going through this process. The long and the short of it is that as part of the cleanup, we have to, two things come up. We have to hold a minimum of 1 inch of water on site before we pipe drain anything off site. And because of the contaminants that are underground, and we're cleaning everything, but there's things that are buried very deep, and there's things that simply last many years within the soils that even after you've cleaned. So we're very limited in those areas of the site that have the ability to retain water. The area that would be that service road area has never been built, and apparently there's no plans to build it. It doesn't go as you travel down State Road 9 to anything. And so it has the capacity to provide us some substantial drainage for holding the water. This would be done as dry retention. So for everybody's view, this is going to be a grassy area that is modestly lower than the developed area and probably has some ridges in it, even though it's not fully designed. So it would be attractive from street view, and it's as you come to the entry of our property, so we would want it to be attractive. We are committed to maintaining this easement and all the maintenance costs associated with it. And we truly appreciate the partnership we've had with the city to date. And as Mr. Gay said, part of what we have to do in order to meet our commitments to DERM is to provide them with the development plan that we're going to undertake. So this would be a part of it. As part of that, we would be testing the site to make sure that it is, as we hope, not contaminated itself from the prior owner's actions or anything else over time. And so there's a process of testing and that we would like to begin as soon as possible so that we can generate the full plan to DERM and move this forward into the development process. With that being said, if any of you have any questions, myself or Reese, who's on the call with us today, would be happy to try and answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Stone or Mr. Reese?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly.
I don't have a question. I just want to thank them. This has been an ongoing process, a challenge for a few years now. As most people know, that I've been working on something for that Cuyahoga site that didn't involve big trucking coming through there. Most of the things that have wanted to come through there over the last 5 to 10 years has been that, which I've been very much opposed to in the residential area. So I'm very excited about what they are proposing and the due diligence they put in and working with our city staff. And this resolution gets us a step closer in that process of trying to see something that will be amenable and work out well for the community. I'm definitely supportive of it. So I want to just thank them for their efforts and everyone involved to get us to this point. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Burke.
Okay, I want to thank them as well, but I also want us to be cognizant of remember they're saying this property is contaminated. We need to have some assurance that we're not going to get stuck with that drainage with contamination, and years later the city is stuck with dealing with that. So do we have some type of guarantee that that area, none of the contamination that comes off of that property is going to get into that drainage, and years later the city is going to have to deal with that?
Yes, sir. Let me speak to that. This whole process from the beginning is overseen by DERM with the sole goal of actually, cleaning the contamination from the site. So we have removed tons of materials, and what DERM wants to make certain happens is that the clean rainwater as it lands on the site is not drained through contaminated soils and therefore might reach the water table and that way. And so there's going to be testing to make sure that that's the case as we go forward with the plan. There's going to be and is testing and monitoring wells going on the site, and everything that we are working towards is, although you'll see us stop working in terms of removing debris, the cleaning process over time will continue. The site will, although it will be capped and protected as part of the closure, over time it will only improve, and over time is an extended period of time, but it will. So I can assure you that that DERM will be monitoring this site and have control over its owner, whether it's us or someone in the future with a land use restriction, forevermore.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Gay, we received an email from this company reference this. What was that? What was that a reference to, Mr. Gay? The email that we received?
Through the mayor, we received numerous emails from this particular company, so I'm not exactly sure which email you may be referring to. But basically, the emails that they've sent thus far have basically talked about what they propose to do on the site, what is needed of them and from us as it relates to utilizing this particular site for the drainage access. Basically, all of the emails that have been sent thus far have related to the cleanup process, the requirements for moving forward with whatever particular type of development, which as we view it right now, it is going to be a residential development. And that's pretty much what's been proffered thus far.
Okay,
The site plan for this particular site, once it gets finalized, will be forthcoming, and the commission will have an opportunity to review that as well.
okay, thank you, Mr. Gay.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Davis.
thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Burke took the words right out of my mouth. I was pretty sure in previous discussions with the property owners that it was a Brownsfield site. And as you know, as many of our businesses in Opa-locka have an industrial nature, usually they are Brownsfields and they test positive for arsenic. So definitely, don't want that sort of material being transmitted, through our community. So thank you for, clearing up the drainage and those concerns, because those were all issues. I know in the past that you guys are kind of up in the air as far as what type of residential development that you were going to have for the project. If you could kind of speak to some of the, I guess, like where you are as far as, townhomes, or are they going to be apartments? Are they going to be for rent or home ownership? So just so we can kind of have an idea of what's coming ahead.
The answer is, at this point, we're working on all of those formats because it would be, all site development is always challenged, and the economics are always up in the air really throughout the process. This site, obviously more challenged than most. So we have been working on two plans at the same time that meet the current zoning requirements. But I don't want to misspeak until we actually present a site plan to you. Everything is work in process and may or may not be the final outcome. One of the plans is a townhouse development, which may be affordable rental or it may be home ownership. And we are in talks, and they're preliminary, with developers that work in both forums. There is also a plan for garden apartments, which is a walk-up 2- or 3-story garden apartment format, which has more units to it, which has been applied for already at Florida Housing for financing. It did not win in that round, which we found out about a week or so ago, but we look forward to them moving forward in this year's round as well. The reality is it would have been challenging for us to meet the timelines for development. If they had one, we would have all of us, I'm sure, been doing everything necessary to do that. But so they're still working on that program as well. As you know, that's very much a competitive, up in the air process in order to win that funding in the process. So our goal is to get the property into a developable format so that it is ready to go, and we're getting close to that, and this is part of that process. And B, to move it forward expeditiously with as little time wasted as possible to a program that will be able to close and move forward. And I assure you that those are really the only goals that we have in mind here. The rest will all take care of itself. But so we've been working continuously for the last 2 years in all those fields, but narrowly those are the areas that we're still very focused on, and working with third-party developers in that way.
Thank you very much for that. I'll just monitor it as you guys progress. Continue the great work, and thank you for choosing the great city of Opa-locka.
Thank you.
Anything else for the developers? Mr. Stone and Ms. Ruiz? All right, again, Mr. Stone and Ms. Ruiz, thank you for bringing this project to the city of Opa-locka. We welcome your development. And thank you very much for taking the time to present this easement to us. With that said, do I have a motion to move this item?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Davis. The floor is open for discussion. All right. I have a question. Mr. Gay, with the approval of this easement, do we anticipate any investment from the city in regards to stormwater management for this property in the future?
Mr. Mayor, based on the information that's been provided to us thus far, and because the property is not being utilized by the city at this time for any type of utility easement or anything of the like, we do not anticipate that there would be any type of financial proffer for anything related to this. I mean, this developer is basically taking on the fact that they will manage and maintain and deal with all of the issues related to the stormwater retention that as it has been proposed. So we do not anticipate anything that would be an expenditure or a cost to the city at this time.
Okay, and moving forward, I'm pretty sure during the site plan and development agreement, we'll be able to see the level of, I guess, stormwater that would be produced by the sewage that will be produced by this development. At that point in time, is that when we have considerations on how much of a city investment? Well, now that's what my question is simple as this. Will the city have any investment moving forward in the sewage that come from the site? And will that be covered by the developer or the city?
As you may know, there are impact fees that are associated with development projects within the city. Depending on what type of development and the scale of the development will determine whether there needs to be any additional infrastructure or upgraded infrastructure that will be introduced to this particular site. We really don't know what the answer is to that until we get to the site plan. But as a part of that whole process, there are impact fees that are associated with any new development that occurs. And the impact fees cover water and sewer, it covers stormwater, it covers public safety and parks. For all residential developments, those are the 4 areas that they will cover. So there will be some return on an investment from the developer as it relates to those particular issues. In some cases, and this is something that we may need to entertain in the future, looking at it from the standpoint of as it being proposed as an affordable development, would the city have to invest a portion of it and meet the developers halfway? That's something that's yet to be determined. And it's really dependent upon what type of development and the site plan that is finally proposed to occur on this site.
Okay. All right, thank you. I want to be clear just to make sure I'm very sensitive to developments and ensuring that we are able to manage the stormwater and sewage because that has been a problem within the city. As we just spoke about, some of these developments have not been able to put in the correct amount of stormwater drainage and sewer and also impacting our pump stations. So I just want to make sure all those are taken care of. So as long as that is very clear, and I want to put that on record that we are doing everything possible to ensure that as new developments come into the city, we are making sure that the proper impact fees and they're going through the proper protocols to ensure that we as a city government can handle the impact of that development. So I do appreciate and I like what they're doing over in the Cuyahoga site. Welcome to development. So I thank you very much and for everybody that's been involved in that. With that, are there any other comments on this? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes. Yes.
Mayor Paget.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Moving on to item 16 A1, Madam Attorney.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, amending the annual adopted general, proprietary, and special revenue funds budgets for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2019, and ending September 30th, 2020, adjusting revenues and expenditures as reflected in Exhibit A, providing for the expenditure of funds established by the budget, authorizing the city manager to take certain actions, providing for appropriation of all budgets and expenditures, providing for fees consistent with appropriations and amendment, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for a conflict and repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
All right, it's a public hearing item. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor, there are no public comments for this item.
All right, do I have a motion for item 16A1?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Burke. Mr. Manager, would you like to introduce this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As read, this is budget amendment number 2. So we're rolling in a nice direction as far as adjusting the budget and doing appropriate amendments. I asked our budget administrator, Mr. Anathan, to present this item.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. It's Bob Anathan, Budget. The agenda cover memo first off, it has 41 proposed amendments. The agenda cover memo tries to it does hit the highlights, the more important ones. The other ones are of lesser importance. I can roll through the highlights of the highlights if that will be of value to anybody, or I can wait and just accept any questions anybody has on any of the 41 items.
For our public, I would like you to go through the highlights so the public know that what we're doing with their tax dollars.
Okay, I certainly will do that. Hitting some of the highlights the first on the list is the funding of the 2105 Alabama project. There's really no news there. That should have been in the budget from the outset. For some reason, it wasn't. So it's just catching up. This project is being funded primarily by a grant. And as I said, there's no new news to it. Some of the other highlights, number 13 has to do with the compensation for the police CID, Criminal Investigation Division. For whatever reason, it has 6 mid-range to senior officers in there. And for some reason, the budget only showed an average compensation of $41,000. So this is correcting for that. Item 16, due to the extra police activity related to COVID-19, there's going to be more overtime than was originally budgeted for. We've added another $75,000 to the original budget of $75,000. Again, a reminder that all of this will be submitted to FEMA for reimbursement. The rules of FEMA, assuming they accept the claim itself, they will reimburse us for 75% of the overtime related to COVID-19. Number 17 reflects the additional roadway milling and resurfacing that was discussed by the Public Works Director. Just identifies the funding that's going to take care of that. 19 has to do, there was brief discussion, I think, about the fact that I think the Community Development Director mentioned, actually that may have been part of the Community Development or the CRA meeting, the project to restore the historic City Hall. ran into some hurdles a couple years ago, has not moved forward. At this point, before any more money is being spent on it, it's been recommended that we do a reassessment to really establish what the needs are so we can be realistic in our expectations. So that reflects $100,000 just to do a reassessment to find out what the baseline should be. Number 21 has to do with, there has been a fire hydrant restoration program in place for many years. The water sewer fund is doing quite well this year, thanks to the county taking over the billing of it. And decision was made by the Public Works Director that we accelerate that program. So over the next 2 years, we should be able to step up to all of the fire hydrants, make sure they're totally up to date and totally functional. So there's extra money for that. Number 23 has to do with the relining of the two, as Public Works Director has mentioned, has to do with relining the collection basins for collection basin areas number 7 and number 8. So that sets up the funding to that. Number 29 has to do with initiation of 2 CRA projects where they're going to move forward, both in terms of a downtown master plan and also the facade program, which they believe is going to be much more successful this year. Number 40 had to do with the settlement with the prior city attorney. And 41 is an interesting one. During the period of 2013 to 2015, the city decided that to take care of the funding requirements of CRA, because the CRA had not yet earned any of its what's called TIF revenue or revenue income. They transferred in $345,000. That was not for services provided. It really was just to allow them to pay their bills, which was one of many ways they could do it. It's not the role of the Water Sewer Fund to fund the CRA, and consequently, those funds are now, as part of Budget Amendment 41, will be returned to the Water Sewer Fund for future infrastructure work. So that's a summary of the highlights and I stand ready to answer any questions anybody may have on any of the 41 proposed amendments.
All right. Do you have any questions for city manager or the budget administrator? All right, the floor is open for discussion. Any comments on the item? All right, Mr. Manager and Mr. Anthony, I just want to thank you and your team for taking the time. These budget amendments have been going through very smoothly, and they've had a lot of backup documentation. And I want to thank you for taking the time to do that and making sure that we're very transparent when it comes to the expenditures of taxpayers' dollars, and also conservative in moving forward. One thing that I do want to make sure, I've been asking for this since we started the COVID-19, is how is this going to impact our city? What funding do we have available to respond? And how are we prioritizing that funding to address the needs of our residents during this time of COVID-19? Looking forward to a more detailed report on that at tomorrow's meeting. It's been a few weeks now, and we really want, I know many of us on the commission have some ideas and some things, and we have a lot of residents that have been talking about different things that we can do. And we want to make sure that we are responsive to our residents and properly allocating the use of funds during this time of COVID-19. So thank you very much, Mr. Manager and Mr. Anthony and the whole team for bringing us this far. With that, if there are not any other remarks, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 first reading.
All right, Mr. Manager, your report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, commissioners, staff, and residents. The manager's report is being restructured a little bit. I know typically we want to hit on the 4 major challenges. So with the 4 major challenges, typically we'll have updates once a month on the 4 major challenges. There are not going to be many changes on a bi-weekly basis. So I leave the first half of the month to deal with miscellaneous kind of general stuff that we're dealing with, current issues that we're dealing with within the city. And then I leave the latter meeting to deal with the 4 major challenges where we have funding that's coming in. We're able to assess what we have from month to month. We're able to address road projects, our finances, and various other subjects. What I want to kind of center my manager's report on are a couple subjects. One being Miami-Dade County just finished the assessment of our police department. That assessment has been rolled out to the chief and his command staff. We had the chief hosted a command staff meeting that I was attending today to kind of roll out the results of that assessment. And that assessment was rolled out to all the police departmental staff this afternoon. As I've spoken to the chief of police, requested an action plan on all the findings of that assessment by Friday of this week in regards to implementing changes and various different processes within the police department. As we discussed this, when I came aboard as city manager, my key was to assess each department, and my pledge to the commission was to assess each department as independently as possible in order to obtain input. Our public safety, of course, is first and foremost. So that department we kind of focused on getting that done. Miami-Dade County has been a wonderful partner. I thank Commissioner Barbara Jordan, her staff, Deputy Mayor Maurice Kemp, and the Miami-Dade Director of Police in assisting the city in doing this. They came and assessed our police department over, I want to say, a 2-week period where they assessed operations, administration, infrastructure and equipment, and various other operations within the police department. So this report is a benchmark and a blueprint of how to improve the police department moving forward. So they have the best, so our residents are provided the best law enforcement services possible, and our officers are provided the resources they need to be successful within the city. As you know, the Opa-locka Police Department goes through great turnover of law enforcement personnel, one of the lowest paid law enforcement agencies, if not the lowest paid law enforcement agency in the state of Florida. So we're kind of working on those assessments and looking at things, modernizing the police department and so forth. That report was rolled out to our commission on Monday morning, and it was gradually rolled out to the rank and file. And it's a public document if anybody in public wants to actually review the report. I want to talk about first, are there any questions in regards to that? Okay. Commissioner?
That's all right, Mr. Mayor, I'll wait. I'll wait till we finish.
Yeah, we'll wait till your conclusion of your report, Commissioner Manager.
Okay. The second item I want to touch on is flooding within the city. As everybody is aware, we've had a lot of rainfall over the last weekend going into the week. We have more rainfall coming. I want to assure our residents that our public works staff are working around the clock to maintain and manage our pump stations, ensure they're operating properly, to make sure that we are dealing with stormwater and our sewage in a way that's responsible to prevent any backups or any issues in regards to flooding. As you all are aware, there's a flash flood warning issue for tonight, and there most likely be a flash flood watch issue for the rest of the week. So we're kind of keeping our temperature on that. Miami-Dade County's put out various issues that have occurred countywide. This flooding event that occurred yesterday is a countywide issue, as the Vice Mayor spoke on earlier, affected all of South Florida, various other municipalities because of the level of rainfall that has came in over the weekend and yesterday specifically. So I want our public to know that our public works staff is diligently working. I last night took several phone calls from concerned residents, our commission, and communicating with our public works staff to make sure we have the personnel out there. I have authorized overtime for our personnel to be out there tonight, even before the rain starts, to make sure we're assessing our pump stations and assessing the water issues that may occur, especially with Opa-locka being in a state of flooding emergency. And kind of the third item I want to kind of touch on is talking about the city's finances. really on more of a global area. We're doing several assessments where we're doing estimation in regards to what revenues will look like next year. As everybody knows, COVID-19 hit our economy very hard. It has impacted a lot of cities in regards to future budget budget assessments and estimates for next year. So it is an ongoing issue that we're kind of looking at and we're kind of evaluating on a weekly basis. It's very fluid at this point. Looking at based on how the reopening plan works with Miami-Dade County and the state of Florida, and looking at how our commerce and economics will work moving forward. We're kind of holding on to the temperature on that. I don't want to touch a lot on COVID-19 because we have a full workshop tomorrow that probably will last a very long time and kind of going over COVID-19 on more of a global area. I will kind of piggyback on what the mayor said. We do have a walk-up testing site. We have allocated 200 tests per day. Today we reached the first day that reached 101 tests. Okay, so we've been under 100. Today we have 101 tested. We know bad weather has kind of impacted our testing rate going forward because the testing site, because it's a walk-up site, closes anytime there's inclement weather. So I'm really pushing out to our residents, get out there, get tested. You can walk up, you know, we of course prefer appointment, but if you're driving by, you want to get tested, please come by and get tested. I'm telling you, at this point, we're not turning anybody away. We want to make sure everybody gets tested because this is a very important pandemic. This is a very pivotal time in the world in regards to dealing with COVID-19. We have outstanding partnerships with the state and the county as well as the city has put in significant dollars to ensure that COVID-19 is addressed in a way where we are being proactive and we're ensuring the safety of our residents moving forward. I would like to, thank my directors and thank my staff for working diligently with me during this time. It's been a very stressful time for staff, very stressful time for myself in regards to dealing with the very fluid nature of COVID-19, having to close the city hall, having to kind of curtail city operations until we kind of assess COVID-19 and how it impacted the South Florida area. Now we're in the phase of reopening. The reopening plan has been rolled out by Miami-Dade County. The city will be rolling out a reopening plan in the next week. We're working with our marketing person to come out with literature for our businesses as well as for our residents, kind of explain that. We want to kind of gauge how that goes and hopefully, reopen our green spaces in a very near future, reopen our parks and our green spaces for our residents. But we want to make sure our residents are safe. We peaked, I went over 300 positive COVID-19 cases in a population of 18,000. One of the highest, top 3 or 4 per capita in the state of Florida. So we want to make sure our residents are safe when they're walking through and commuting through our great city. I think that's very important, and I think the safety of our residents matter. I will tell you, the city's cognizant, of the whole stay-at-home order. Our residents want to go out and get some air and kind of do that. But enforcement is important. Social distancing is essential. We want to kind of push that out there. The commission has a lot of initiatives that are coming out in the next couple of commission meetings and kind of dealing with a mask ordinance and various other matters in regards to the safety of our residents and maintaining social distancing in a very responsible manner. I will, say and be very direct with our residents. We need to ensure that we're practicing social distancing and practicing our curfew because it's essential that we kind of scale back the number of COVID positive cases that we have. I will tell you, out of over 400 people so far tested, we have under 30 COVID positive out of about 400 tested so far. So that is a very good number. We have to do more testing to get a more solid number, but that's a very good ratio. I'm cautiously optimistic in regards to that, but we got to get out and get tested. We have to get out and get tested. One more thing in regards to COVID-19, as everybody knows, every Tuesday, we have our Feeding South Florida food drive. Very important endeavor. In all my years of public service, I've never seen a bunch of volunteers and staff members come together to serve our community on a weekly basis. Every Tuesday, we're giving away food. We're out there serving the community. And I am very proud to work for the city of Opa-locka and being a part of that. Mr. Mayor, that kind of concludes my comments. I know members of the commission may have questions in regards to the subjects I've spoken, and I'm prepared to take those questions at this time.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. The floor is open for any questions and concerns for our manager.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Kelly?
Thank you. I'll reserve the COVID-19 because that is tomorrow's kind of major discussion. I did not hear you particularly address, and maybe you did. I know you highlighted or you mentioned about the report from the assessment on the police department, and you've asked for the chief and staff to provide you, I guess, response or something to it. When is that due, if I can ask?
Yes, that response is due this Friday, close of business, Commissioner.
Okay. I'm still, as you heard earlier, even in the comment, there's still a lot of shootings, a lot of things going on in the community. I'm not convinced that it's COVID-19 related, although it might be, but there seems to be an uptick in shootings and things going on around the city. And the response seems to be, at least from what I hear from residents, the shooting is taking place. So a lot of times we are not, I guess, responding as fast. Obviously, citizens always think we should. But is there something going on? I mean, that's not COVID-19 related, that's impacting that. And I'm not even talking about in the apartment complex, but I have been receiving a lot of calls on that. So I guess as you work through your report and your findings and whatever, the police department will get a clearer understanding. But that still is a challenge. The residents don't particularly feel safe, because of the uptick in shootings and the volume of shootings. It's not just one shot, two shots, it's rounds of gunfire instead of going on. The other thing is dealing with the drainage, and you did touch on it, and I know staff has been out there, doing what they can, and it wasn't Opa-locka issues. We saw it was a South Florida issue, continues to be a South Florida issue, and we're doing what we can to pump water, et cetera. I guess the question I really have regarding on that, one of the things that keeps always coming up, are we cleaning our gutters? Are we doing the proper work to make sure the stuff drains? Because oftentimes I get pictures from residents about whether we're cleaning the drain. And I assure them, I believe there is a process you all go by or have that you're cleaning drains, quote unquote, anyway. It's not like you're just waiting around. Would that be a fair statement, the mayor to the manager?
To answer your question in regards to the drainage issue, our Public Works Department, of course, is working diligently to clear our drains. But as you all know, with a large rain that we had yesterday, you're always going to have debris that's going to cover our catch basins and kind of infiltrate the drainage in the city. I'll let Mr. Austin kind of speak on that plan. I know the mayor has brought this up before. I want to say less than a month ago in regards to a plan in regards to how the gutters are being cleaned, and I'll let Mr. Austin kind of address that. He's a subject matter expert on that subject. Mr. Austin.
Permission to speak, Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir.
We are actively assessing and maintaining our drainage systems for those that we could. We have 2 contracts that are pending for repairs and maintenance from an outside contractor to address 3 routes that have infested our drainage system on 2 key points of concern, which is Saharazad and Alibaba. But throughout the city, we are addressing our drainage systems to make sure they're clear. During the rain, we cannot clean the systems, but we are clearing the inlets for all of our drainage systems to ensure that the water has a chance to percolate.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Austin. Thank you, Mr. Manager, for that. The other things I have relate to your report. I will email you on. I just want to say to you, Mr. Manager, really to all of us, one of the things we have to do, and I used to do it, just go out with my Facebook page. When we have episodes like this, we need to be able to communicate to our residents quickly. And since you got a PR person and you pass legislation that says other, maybe they can do this. You got to get the word out to folks that we understand is going on. Like last night, we were all calling you. We weren't aware that the county's pump station had issues that was causing our issues, et cetera. We got to be able to communicate to folks that we are working on it, because I also got calls from folks who call the police department, who referred, they got to go to the county, come back, and then they reach no one. You had the sirens going off at some of your pump stations all over the city, and they were trying to figure out who to call and with no connection. And even though I know you all were working on it or were aware of it, the citizens didn't know. We got to figure out a way, whether it's through our Facebook, through our email, through our whatever, to send something out or say something that we are aware of it, we are working on it. If you have something that really out of the norm, you can call us, because the number, Mr. Manager, you remember this from your Meet Me Monday that you attended and your staff, that number that was given to them is not a number they can actually reach a person. They're still told to go through the county and come back through, call a police department. So we need to look at that number as being a number you can call when it's not a quote unquote police emergency, when it's a public works or something issue of that, with those lights going, sirens going off at the pump station, et cetera. We need to be able to communicate that to the residents. And although we may not like it, social media is the quickest way to get to folks. So if you put some on the page, like most things now, all of us see it, we'll share it, we'll get the word out, because what occurs is it gives the impression that we aren't doing anything or we aren't aware, when we obviously are aware, and we are working on it, even though people may not think we are. So that we can put that out and let them know we are dealing with it, not only in apartment complexes, but you had challenges in residential areas of flooding, et cetera. The same thing would apply. The news media only covers it after the fact. They're around the day, going to neighborhoods or going whatever, but I mean, to let folks know as quick as we can that we are addressing issues. The rest of the things I'll defer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Austin.
Right. Anyone else have any questions or comments for the manager? All right, Mr. Manager, you mentioned we have a 30 out of 400 that tested positive at that center.
Yes, it's a little under 30. So the numbers I received as of yesterday, talking to the incident commander, we have over 400 that tested and under 30 positives out of the testing site. So that doesn't account for if they're Opa-locka residents or not. It's just the individuals that actually went to the testing site and tested. So out of 400, a little over 400 tests, we are a little under 30 positives, COVID positives at this time, as of yesterday.
Okay. If possible, I would like us to have those exact numbers on a regular basis, because that actually it's almost a 7.5% rate if it's from 30 to 400. So that's can be pretty significant, actually pretty big, if we're testing at that rate here at that testing site. So we can get that information now, be very helpful. There's any other comments for the manager?
Mr. Mayor, real quick.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you for all your hard work around testing and just getting things done as of lately. As it relates to, I guess, just reaching out to the community in general. I know I heard Commissioner Bass kind of allude to a virtual town hall, and I also brought it up at past meetings. And given the kind of breakdown in communication with our residents, I think it'll be a great timing to do so. I know a lot of the issues that we need to communicate to the community are related to COVID-19, so I won't dig too deep. We could address it at the workshop. but just want to reiterate, the need for a virtual workshop and to kind of echo Commissioner Bass' concerns, that we need to do a town hall or engage our residents in some way. And to the manager, hopefully that information will be included in whatever plan is crafted as we move forward and deciding, what the new normal looks like for our city operations and our community.
Through the mayor. Commissioner, first, thank you for your comments and your acknowledgement. To be realistic with you, we are working on a virtual town hall. I know yourself have requested a meeting with the members of community within Glorietta Gardens. I know Commissioner Bass has kind of requested and I've kind of thrown some out ideas about virtual bingo. So we're trying to get into this new normal. Our IT staff is ready and willing to schedule these Zoom meetings. Just let us know when and how you want to do it. If you want the manager's office to call the meeting in virtual town hall and organize it, we are perfectly fine with that. We will ring true to those ideas and kind of communicate with our community. And as Commissioner Kelly kind of brought this up about, I want to say a couple of weeks ago, that with this new normal, we're reaching out a different segment of the community. People are reaching out to the city that typically we don't interact with on a daily basis when we're actually doing our physical meetings, right? So I think it's important to kind of do that virtual town hall. And even when we get into the new normal and we're able to get back on the dais, I think it's still pertinent to be able to utilize Zoom and utilize technology as far as communicating with our community. I think all of you all would say it's much easier to attend these meetings at the comfort of your home. Imagine our residents being in comfort of their home, being able to attend and being able to interact with the community and interact with us. I think it's very important. A lot of community members have been reaching out to me in regards to their concerns and our communication. I kind of want to touch on that really quickly. The commission approved a new phone system that we're implementing where we'll be able to start up a call center and have a dedicated number, having somebody answer the phone during various issues. I know at one point, Mr. Austin even volunteered to have a dedicated number to go to him for any public works issues after hours. I know my staff have kind of volunteered to man that number as well. It's kind of coordinating and putting out in a succinct manner, and we're going to kind of do that. I do agree with Commissioner Kelly. I will tell you, code red messages should have went out last night, but what we would have reported is what everybody saw was a flash flood warning. But the city's efforts should have been communicated a little bit differently last night, and I will kind of admit to that. A lot of issues were in regards to the flooding is even the county's own pump station was having issues, which kind of affected our pump stations as well. And a lot of that stuff was very fluid coming in at various times of night. And like I said, my focus was getting the right personnel on site to get those pump stations back up. The sirens you're hearing, some of the pump stations went down through the lightning strikes last night. We had crews coming in to restart those pump stations and kind of get those things together. So there are a lot of issues that were occurring last night. But I would concur with Mr. Austin in regards to putting out messaging to our residents to kind of address that. And then to touch on what the mayor said, testing numbers will be presented every Thursday. We do have the first week of testing numbers for the COVID-19 site and current numbers. They will be presented through a PowerPoint presentation during tomorrow's commission meeting. So the commission will see those numbers live and in person, so we can kind of discuss that moving forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. Madam Clerk, do we have any official board reports?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Mayor and Commissioner reports. So the floor is open for the commission. Anyone wants to report?
Mr. Mayor.
I think it was Commissioner Burke.
I think let the senior commissioner go first. Go ahead. I think Commissioner Kelly said at the same time. I yield to Commissioner Kelly.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, thank you. I want again.
Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
You have to log off and log back on. Your mic is having troubles again. Commissioner Burke, you want to run while Commissioner
Yeah.
Kelly fixes his mic?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would like to also give the city manager kudos with his staff. And man, we have a great group of volunteers. I mean, since we started our feeding program, I mean, every Tuesday, it seems like we're getting more and more volunteers. The police department has been very helpful in coordinating the traffic. And I mean, we have really picked up on the operation. You know, I noticed when we first started, everybody was there, but some of us have to work. I realize that. But I would like to give a shout out. And after we're back to our new normal, I would like for some way for us to reach out to the volunteers, the great group of volunteers that we have, Mr. Mayor. I mean, because they're there every Tuesday morning by 8 o'clock. And believe me, they're not there for the pizza. They're there to help our citizens in the great city of Opa-locka. And I just would like to give them a great shout out. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Burke. Anyone else? Oh, Commissioner Kelly's back on. All right, Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I probably am piggybacking what he just said from what I heard in the comment. I want to thank everyone, the manager, staff, and all of the commission and everyone that comes out to do what we're doing in terms of the feeding, and obviously to our volunteers who play such a pivotal role. Certainly want to thank them as well, police department and everyone in that regard. I also want to, as the manager mentioned, I'm glad to hear working on that virtual town hall. We do have to take advantage of every opportunity we have to reach out to our residents so they don't get misinformation on things that are going on in the community. I also want to invite and remind or suggest to everyone that are not busy tomorrow at 2, I will be doing a reading with young people from the book from the Florida League of Cities that was put out at 2 p.m. tomorrow on a Zoom. So young people that are able, it's really geared for 48, but if you want to tune in, you can tomorrow at 2 p.m. The information you can get from the city's Facebook page or website with the Zoom and call-in information. That's it for the moment, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Anyone else want to report? Commissioner Bass?
I just want to also echo the sentiments of my colleagues as it relates to the volunteers. I'm also a volunteer coordinator for Miami-Dade County Public Schools, so I know how difficult it could be sometimes to get volunteers out. I just want to just tell them thank you, and I love them a bunch. And because of them, we are Opa-locka strong. And actually, I would love to see them wearing t-shirts saying Opa-locka strong because they make us greater than we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Actually, I love that idea, Commissioner Bass. We got to figure that out.
Not nothing much, Mr. Mayor, but just want to echo everyone else's concerns with the volunteers. You know, oftentimes they put in sweat equity, you know, and long hours, and you know that translates to a dollar amount, even though we don't pay them. So, you know, kudos to them for coming out consistently every Tuesday and giving it their best go.
I want to thank each and everyone for participating tonight and also participating during this COVID-19, especially the volunteers during our regular food drives. As people know, we are dealing with 3 crises as a city. So this COVID-19, this international pandemic, is on top of our financial crisis and our flooding emergency that we declared within the city of Opa-locka. So there's a lot that we have to tackle as a city, and this is an extremely challenging time. So shout out to staff that has been taking the time to really make sure that we stay on top of this and we continue to address it. We've We made significant strides in each of our 4 major challenges. And I continue to hit on those 4 major challenges because that is the foundation to making sure that we have a foundation as a city and able to go forward. When it comes to our finances, we still have 1 audit to complete and also a 5-year recovery plan to complete. And finance department has been working to take some time over this next few weeks to get themselves together, prepare for that next audit. And I want to give a shout out to the finance department for making sure that we stay on track to deal with that our audits and make sure we have our financial plan in place so that we can get out of this financial oversight. When it comes to our water billing, we are still addressing those water billing issues. The transition with Miami-Dade County still underway, and I'm looking forward to us being able to have a workshop where we can clearly detail residents what we're going to do with those back bills to the city of Opa-locka, and also how we're going to manage this relationship with Miami-Dade County. I am happy that when it comes to our flooding and Durham moratorium, with this tonight, we have made significant strides to continue to address all those issues that were released in that Durham consent agreement and bring online our pump stations so that we will only have 1 more left to go after this round, which is huge for what our public works department has been doing over these past few years to make sure that change is realized within the city of Opa-locka. So shout out to the public works department for making sure that is getting done and getting taken care of. And to our residents with this flooding, bear with us. And I know that is extremely hard to do when you have water coming into your household and messing up furniture. That is no joke, simple as that. And we are making sure that we hold private property managers accountable so that they can ensure that we address the flooding issue so that does not happen on that property. But we're restricted in what we can do as a city. However, when it comes to addressing the flooding in public spaces, we just completed that RFP. So that's going to make sure that we get the proper people in place that can do a complete assessment and start to make those steps. So step by step, we're going to achieve that. And as you can see, that step-by-step achievement has been realized with our roads and streets, which is our 4th major challenge, and how we are tackling the remilling of our streets. So by the end of this year, I think since 2016, we probably by the end of this year, we'll probably remilled over 15, almost 20 miles of streets over the past few years and addressed over 90% of our potholes. So with those accomplishments, 141st and 139th, those are the things we need to do as a city to ensure that everyone lives good in the city of Opa-locka. So I'm excited about making sure we take care of Cairo Lane, the industrial area between 151st and Alibaba and 22nd, 27th. Those are still in our mind, and we are going to address these challenges. As a city, we have a challenge with this COVID-19 that is on us as people and residents to stop. As a government, we're thinking about putting in place a mask ordinance, which will be discussed tomorrow night even further and voted upon next week. So if you have any thoughts and ideas about us putting in place a mask ordinance so that we make it a law that people cover their faces so that we can protect each other in the city of Opa-locka, please make sure your voices are heard over the next few meetings so that we can make sure we take in consideration your thoughts. We've done what we need to do to make sure we have a testing center here in the city of Opa-locka. We put out signs all along the major corridors. We put out flyers. We're doing code red announcements. We're doing Facebook announcements. We're doing everything we can to let y'all know to come get tested. Please, please, please get tested so that we know where we are and you can do what you need to do to make sure you do not spread the virus to your loved ones and your family and your friends and your coworkers. So utilize that testing center. I have been tested. Many people on this call have been tested. It's safe. I can attest that this is a safe procedure. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but it is gone once it's done. So please make sure you take full advantage and continue to come out and volunteer for the city of Opa-locka every Tuesday during our food drives. So kudos to the volunteers that come out every week to make that happen. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone. We got 3 emergencies, but we are in this together, and we will, as Commissioner Bass says, we are Opa-locka strong, and we will continue to thrive as a city in our 94 years. So thank you very much. With that, Madam Clerk, are there any board applications?
No, Mr. Mayor, we don't have any at this time.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke.
did you see the article in the paper yesterday on the city?
I'm not sure. I'll probably have to look at that.
They did we had an article yesterday in the paper. It was a decent article. It was talking about some how we just finished up the audits and everything, and how, you know, everything's coming along, but you still got some people who say, oh, but they still got a long ways to go. But it was a decent article showing the strides that we are making. I just thought, you know, I'll let you know that.
Yes. Yeah, I think, did we talk about it? I remember saying something about that article in one of these meetings, because I think it went online for a few days, like probably end of last week, I actually think, or something like that.
Yesterday.
But I think it came in the actual paper yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a digital version earlier. So, and you're right, Commissioner Burke. It gives a very good assessment of where we've come from and where we're going, and the challenges that we're facing as a city. And that's the thing that we need to make sure that people understand. Like, this is a marathon. This is a marathon, and we're going to take this step by step, and we're going to address these issues. So I continue to push upon our residents to hold us accountable, and do so. But rest assured that this commission, this administration, is dedicated to tackling every single issue to make sure we shine as a city of Opa-locka. So with that, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Commissioner Burke.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Davis. Everyone have a good evening. Take care.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good night, Commissioner Bass.